Ray Ayers, Running Away. Dr. Doug here with you, KRV FM, the heart and soul of San Antonio. It's time for our lunch and learn, and the I'll be conducting lunch and learn myself here, and so I've been started doing a little bit of this more recently as I'm intermixing guests and doing my own little sessions, so to speak. Today, our topic is going to be empathy and leadership. And why I want to discuss leadership is, for those of you who've been watching, we talked about building bridges of understanding. We talked about, the 9 characteristics of effective leaders. And today we're going to talk about empathy and leadership. And empathic leadership is important. If you're looking to have any type of successful outcomes, and whether you're talking about a country, whether you're talking about an organization, whether you're talking about a family, a nonprofit, it's great to understand the perspectives of others. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to just talk real about. Now, I'm not going to make any references to specific names. I'll make references, but I won't mention specific names. So, for instance, you look at where we are today in the United States. We're in a very dangerous, in my opinion, dangerous position. For instance, we have. I talked last week during one of my sessions. We talked about Russia. And how Russia had a big explosion, a nuclear explosion. Actually, it was the biggest explosion since Chernobyl. And the Russians said, "Oh no, it was just a little mishap, a minor chemical spill." But it was something that registered and that we were able to track and monitor, and it's quite significant. There's quite a significant amount of radioactive damage. Several people were killed, including the 5 people who were working on this experiment. And how it happened is, what Russia was trying to do, they're trying to build they had built a cruise missile with a nuclear engine. And for those of you that don't understand the whole things about the different weapons and things like that, it's not necessary that you go do that. Please don't. But cruise missiles are typically, they're missiles that are designed to go a certain distance, and that distance is not very far. I mean, maybe we probably can send one maybe a couple hundred miles at best or somewhere, but they have a traditional trajectory, a traditional kind of rocket booster type of propulsion system. So the reason that someone will put a nuclear engine in a cruise missile is because they would want it to travel further, and they would want it to have the engine last longer, and by doing so, you probably can have this missile traveling around for a couple weeks or maybe even a month, and all the while it could be dropping things, strategically dropping, its payload, whatever the payload might be. So the problem with these nuclear powered missiles is that there's no way to shield the radioactive material that's within the engine, and so as it travels, it drips nuclear waste along its path, and so it causes a tremendous amount of problems, of destruction and everything else. So obviously it's a bad idea. So I guess the United States, from what I understand, the United States tried doing something similar to this in the late 50s, early 60s. It didn't work out very well, so they scratched it. So the Russians now, they tried one, and this one that they just tried didn't work out very well either, because it blew up, and then it damaged a lot of property, a lot of land, and hurt a lot of people. So it's not a good idea. But anyway, they tried that, so bookmark that. The other day, they just found out that another one of our new allies, North Korea, is building a nuclear-powered submarine, and this submarine that they're building is one that is based off of some technology that they probably got from the Russians, and the purpose of this submarine is that it can launch Tomahawk missiles, and Tomahawk missiles, you can actually put a nuclear tip on those, and so this submarine now, which they don't have one, can travel around under the water, and they can get close to targets that they can't reach using their other conventional weapons. So now they've got this submarine that's I guess they're going to pilot it here within the next month or so. by the end of the year, they'll have the capability of having this thing travel wherever they want to, and it'll have all kinds of abilities to affect and to reach places that North Korea has yet to date been able to reach. So we got that. Okay, bookmark that. Then we have the conflict in Iran, and we already know Iran has nuclear power, nuclear capabilities, and things. So we'll just leave that. So park that. Then we got Turkey. Turkey has nuclear weapons, and so does Pakistan. And then we found out yesterday that the new Prime Minister of London, of Great Britain, decided to suspend Parliament for 30 days and cause all kinds of upheaval in there that's never been heard of before. Somebody, even one of the British newspapers on British newscasters on BBC said the last time somebody did suspended Parliament, they beheaded them. I don't know if they were joking about that or not, but anyway, so we park that. So I bring all those things up because here we are today in the world, and in the past, the United States was a country that was always the one who provided the level of sanity, if you will, around the world. So whenever one of these things would happen, what we would do is we would send a secretary or an ambassador or someone like that. We would send over there, and they would go talk to them, and calmer heads would prevail, and everything would be fine. And pardon the ring, I'm really sorry about that. But and if you're calling, you'll have to call back. So, but anyway, so we would send someone, and they would go talk to them, and we would come to some kind of agreement. Everybody would calm down. So, and that has worked for a long time, because if you go all the way back since the Depression in this country, we have realized an overwhelming economic prosperity. I mean, one of the longest periods of prosperity in history. And then things have been going pretty well with the little conventional way, us getting our little coalitions together and so like, because, we used to have the European Union and all these types of things. And so we get all those things together, and something bad would happen. This conglomeration led by the United States would go, they say, bad boy, bad country, bad whatever, and whatever. So all of that stuff is being kind of fettered away under the guise of nationalism and under the guise of selfishness, if you want my opinion about it is. And so where we are today, and the reason we're in such a dangerous place is, as many countries, including the United States, is turning our view inward instead of a worldview outward, it's causing all kinds of people to behave differently. And so that's where we get into empathy, because empathy is understanding the perspective of others. And why is empathy important in leadership? Well, if you want to just talk a couple things here, let me just find my little cheat sheet here. We talk about it here. Let's just talk about engagement. So there's Gallup's most recent State of the American Workforce report found that only 33% of the United States workforce is actively engaged while they're at work. And only 21% of the employees feel inclined or motivated to do outstanding work. So they're going to do what they get paid to do. You know what? I know I'm not doing that. I don't get paid to do it. And that's kind of the attitude. So that's not good. High disengagement can be linked to evolving expectations for what work should not be. Now you look at the millennials, who comprise the largest generation in the United States workforce currently, more so than previous generations. At the same point in their time in their career, they are looking for meaningful and fulfilling work. They want work-life balance. They want learning opportunities, and they want roles that align with their talents and their morals, so to speak. So take that. And so those are things that are important. So when you look at that, if you're engaged, if you have a lot of millennials working for you, that's something that's really important. That you might want to know that millennials want engaging work. They want to be a part of the decision-making process. And they want to work, and they want to be involved with someone who understands where they're coming from and who aligned. They want people who are aligned, work with somebody who's aligned with their thoughts, their morals, their beliefs, and things like that. So one of the things that you have to do is you look at our country today, and you look at the level of engagement that we have just in our political arena. There is like an absence of engagement. I can't think of the last time that any meaningful legislation has been passed anywhere. I can't think of it. And you look at these people we've elected to put in office, when they come on TV, they do everything they can to talk around the issues and to come up with excuses, and they blame others. And so that's a problem. They do that because they understand that now that it's an everyone out for themselves game today that's taking place in the world. That's so when I talked about those examples from the beginning about the everyone from the Russians and they were testing the missile and the Koreans and so forth and so forth and so forth, and everyone's now got this me first approach. When you have a me first approach, you can't understand what the other people are thinking about or where they're coming from. That's a problem because now everyone, if it's all about me, then everyone's taking a defensive posture. And when people take defensive postures, they typically react without a whole lot of thought. They react to something that they see or that they perceive, but they don't put a lot of thought. They don't apply a lot of logic to their behavior. So, so what am I getting at? So, one of the things that's happened here is what preceded all of these things is the United States about 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, conducted our first long-range missile test in over 50 years. And we shot it, boom, it went all the way off and way past Hawaii and landed in the water somewhere, and there's a big, huge splash, and everyone shook hands and said, oh, wow, that was a success. Great, great, great missile launch. Well, we had worked for a long time and did all kinds of treaties and said we weren't going to do those types of things anymore. We weren't going to test those types of missiles anymore. And besides that, we got so many missiles that we can destroy the Earth like 50,000 million times. Obviously, that's not a real number. I just made that number up. But at least it's a couple thousand times. So we launched this missile, and everyone else around the world sees that. And what do? They think, why is the United States doing that? So, the leadership in Washington right now is so unpredictable that people don't know what they're going to do next. And if you're a leader, the last thing you want are the people who are following you to behave in an unpredictable manner. You want to make sure that the things that they are doing reflect your goals and objectives. And if they see that you as a leader have a lack of empathy and a me first attitude, then you already, what did I say? 33% are actively engaged, and 21% say they don't want to I paraphrase this. I want to make sure I say this the right way. That 33% is actively engaged, and only 21% of the employees feel motivated to do outstanding work. So, that means that 79% of the workers out there, they're just going to work getting paid just to get by. Why? Because no one understands them. Because there's no empathy in the workforce. The tenor of the country, the tone of the country, the behavior of the country, if you look throughout history, it follows the behavior of the people in Washington, D.C., of the president, of the cabinet, of those type of people. So when you have people in Washington that are perceived to have a me first attitude, then then people are going to do unpredictable things. The Koreans are going to build a submarine, and who knew they were going to? I got to tell you, I saw the pictures of this thing from satellite. How did we miss that? Because it's a huge thing. And it had to have taken them, they don't have a lot of technology and it's dark over there at night, so they can't work at night. I don't know that for a fact. I take that back. But anyway, they don't have optimal working conditions. So to get something built that big, it had to take a long time. And so they've been working on this thing. And so it just seems to me that in order to right the ship and to get things back to where they were, where people are engaged, people want to do outstanding work, it has for such a long time, our workforce, I want to say all the way back since the World War II, people wanted to work hard. They wanted to prove their worth. They wanted to say that, hey, I did this, or I was a part of this, or they for a long time people worked at the same company for 20 and 30 years. And then they loved it, and when they left, they got big recognition, celebratory events, and that stuff doesn't happen anymore. It just doesn't. You look at talk about people retiring and celebratory events for long longevity. Think about Secretary Mattis, Secretary of Defense, former Secretary of Defense Mattis. And that guy had been Secretary of Defense under at least two, and I think three presidents, but under at least two presidents. And he had been, a 35-year, four-star general. Whether you like his politics or not, one thing he was empathetic. He understood his troops. He understood the people around him. He understood the president because he's kind of like he kind of worked better with him than any of the other cabinet members for at least for a while. And I kind of like the guy, to be quite honest with you. I don't agree with his policies, but I like the guy. I just thought, that Mattis guy, he's a good leader. He has all the qualities of a good leader. And so, bookmark there. You don't have to be in a certain party to be a good leader. You can be, there are great leaders that are Republicans, that are Democrats, that are whatever, third party people. So that has nothing to do with it. It has to do about your style and your ability to communicate to other people and to get along with other people. So just say that. But anyway, so Mattis was a good leader. They got rid of him. And when they got rid of him, it was very unceremoniously. Next thing you know, well, he got fired before, and I hired him. I was doing him a favor because the old guy had nothing to do. He's probably ready to kill himself. I kept him from killing himself, so I hired him, and now I'm really unhappy with him. He did a poor job for me, and I fired him again, and the guy was horrible. Look what he did in Afghanistan. Look what he did. And they just really tried to drag him through the mud and everything. So if you want to read about Mattis, and I suggest you do, in the September issue of The Atlantic, there's a really compelling article in there where he is being interviewed, and he's talking about his book that he just wrote, and it talks about a lot of it. He doesn't mention people by name. He's got too much class for that, but read the book. It's a big good read. So anyway, so now you got other people who have much less seniority and have contributed much less than Mr. Mattis. How are they going to behave if they see that's how you treated that person? So now once again you got people going seeking more inwardly instead of outwardly, and that causes a problem. It creates even less engagement. So what do we do, and what do we need? We got an election coming up, and we have all these things happening, and I'm here just speaking purely of leadership. I'm not telling anybody who to vote for or whatever, but you need to make sure that the people who are there, who are in charge, or representing us, have the skills to do the job that we sent them there to do, and characteristics aside, and all those other things, those are great things. But I decided to talk about empathy today because if you don't have empathy, none of those other behaviors matter. None of the other behaviors matter. And so when you talk about empathy, one of the things you have to do is you have to, be able to understand others. You have to be able to look at people and understand their body language, understand their unspoken emotions, and then you have to understand where their range of perspectives lie. And that's based on their background, their experience, and a lot of other things. So this leadership stuff is not easy. It's hard to do. And so when you talk about being a leader of a country, it's hard to do that if you've never been a leader before. So if your only leadership experience is leading your nuclear family, that could be a problem when you have like 20,000 employees reporting to you. That could be a problem. If you never worked with that many people before, that could be a problem. Because you can kind of, people, we generally treat those we love really, really badly. And so if that's your leadership experience and you apply that to everywhere else, then that's going to be a problem, because you have to be able to what people act based on behaviors, based on what they can see, and so what they see, people can, if they see that you have empathetic concern and that you care for them, then they're going to want to become more engaged. They're going to want to be motivated. They're going to be motivated to do a great job. They're going to want to do more. They're going to want to be the best of the best. And when you have a bunch of people all trying to do the best and be the best, you get outstanding results. The United States, pardon this expression, sucked in the Olympics for a long, long time until we started becoming more diverse with our participants in the Olympics. Because now when you look at the United States, back when I was a kid, and you looked at the United States, now you what? There was all a bunch of white guys and Jesse Owens. A bunch of white guys and Jesse Owens. That was it. So now you look at the United States, when we go and win these world games and we represent the United States in these athletic contests, You see people of Asian descent. You see people of African descent. You see people of males. You see females. You see everybody, and that is that's the formula that has that's been effective in what's caused us to be probably one of the greatest societies in the history of Earth. And so that diversity needs to be nurtured. And right now, what we have is we have people who are in power who are using what is arguably our greatest strength, our diversity. They're using that against us. So they're using our strength against us. It's like the Russians in the election thing. What they're doing is they figured out how to turn us against ourselves, how to get us to create infighting and everything, and this infighting and these name callings and these drastic shootings and all these really far out extremist positions. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I grew up in the '60s. So when I grew up, I remember walking down the street with my dad, and if there was a white person walking on the same side of the street toward us, my dad would say, "Douglas, come on, we have to cross the street." And I knew there were certain water fountains that I could drink from, and certain water fountains that I couldn't drink from. Certain bathrooms I could use, certain bathrooms I couldn't use. Certain places we can go and eat, certain places we couldn't go eat. Some places we had to sit in the car, we couldn't go sit inside. I experienced that. And so today, and so throughout my life, each and every year up until now, I saw things get better. I saw race relations improve. I saw women get treated better. I saw immigrants being treated better. I see children being treated better. I see because we got now everyone's concerned about pedophiles and things like that. I got to tell you what, when I was growing up, that pedophile thing, no one got put in jail for that. That was just stuff that happened, and you know what? Just get over it. And that's how it was. And so, when you look at all these things that are happening, it's great. We're becoming more humanistic, more caring for each other. Up until now. Now we've got all these different things, and the penalty for transgressions has more to do with who you are and how much you make, more than it does about how you were treated and what the crime was. Dr. Doug here with the KRVF in the heart and soul of San Antonio. We'll be back in just a minute. Dr. Doug here with you on Lunch and Learn. We're talking about empathy and leadership today. Really appreciate you out there, hanging out there with me today. I normally have guests on, but like I said, I'm going to intersperse these one-on many Lunch and Learns. And so I'm going to do some myself in addition to having guests. We'll continue to have guests on. Like we got the mayor coming up pretty soon here again. And he's done some great things. I'm going to talk about that next week about what we're doing with climate, what we're doing with gun control, and that kind of stuff. But I don't want to spoil that. So, but anyway, keep paying attention. Mayor's going to be on next week, Thursday. We're going to have on Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They're going to be on. So we're going to still have a lot of guests on. And we're going to do a lot of other things. We are going to make some changes. Yeah, and you know, if you watch the morning show with Keith Scott, you know, he had on this morning a couple people. You know what? When you get old, the first thing that goes to your mind is your brain. Bonita Ward, and she's a comedian, a really accomplished comedian here from San Antonio. Great person. And the Strong Foundation was with her. And so they had them on this morning. And so Keith had some great guests on too. So what we want to do is make sure that we have things, and we kind of have things that are of interest to you. So the thing about leadership, I'm almost done here, but I just want to just get back to where we were about the whole thing about empathy. So you know, what do we do? I talked about the problem, I talked about what it creates and everything, a lack of engagement, a lack of wanting to excel, because, you know, people feel, you know, that their needs aren't being considered, and that they're not understood. And so that creates a poor work environment, whether it's a family, a country, or organization, whatever the organization may be, or whatever the size of it may be. So one of the first things you do, let's talk about it real quick here. The first thing we can do is, you know, when you look at the person, look at the people who are leading the country, I don't care what party they're from, whenever they go on TV, none of those people look happy. None of them look happy. I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, they all look like they just ate a mud pie. They're frowned, their brows are gone, they're this and that. And the things that most of them say don't even make sense. They're just trying to get through the interview. And so in this, once again, it's because they know inside that all this stuff they're doing is wrong, and they know it's not benefiting anyone. But because of self-preservation reasons, they do what they do. But I'm going to tell you, just the first thing we got to do is just sit back and just try to understand and feel concern and compassion toward others. If you really sit back and, like, if you're a press conference person, or if you are a leader of an organization, or if you're a supervisor, when you go in on Monday morning, instead of like with a frown on your face or whatever, try this. Try going in and say, hey, good morning, everybody. How are you? You know, I noticed that on Friday, X, Y, and Z occurred. And I just want to know how you guys felt about that, because it didn't make me feel very good. And maybe we can come up with something that can make things a little bit better. You know, so you know, if you did that and you haven't done it before, you get a reaction of astonishment from your followers, because they'd be like, wow, is he or she serious? Or did they? So just try that, because if you're one of those people that have a problem showing empathy toward others, because one of the things that happens is when you show compassion toward others, it releases endorphins within your brain that make you feel better. Because you know, I always talk about this thing like Be Kind to Everybody Tuesdays. You know, I talk about that a lot, and I do that for a reason. But the whole be kind thing, this waving at a person. I was telling my son the other day, we were driving, and there's this real long line. I won't tell you what school, but the line had to be about a quarter, 3/4 of miles long of the people trying to drop their kids off at this private school. And so it was just like disrupting traffic like crazy. And people were honking their horns. They were all upset. It was the first day of school. So what happened was, you know, as we got up to the person directing traffic, guy was upset. He's got the lights going. He's got hands moving all over the place and everything. You know what I did? I rolled down my window, and I said, hey, officer, great job. Have a fantastic day. You know what he did? He smiled. Had to be the first time that guy smiled since 6 o'clock that morning. You know, so when we feel compassion and show empathy toward others, it can make us feel better too. Because when I rolled the window up, I said, dude, you see that? He smiled. And that made me feel better. And instead of like getting all upset and uptight and everything because I was being late, I even felt better. I kind of slowed down and let somebody cut in front of me. And so it has a chain reaction effect on us. And so what it does, when we treat others well and we see their reaction, it causes us to realize compassion ourselves. And it shows that, our blood pressure drops. We talk about the whole health things about feeling good, about treating other goods, about a simple act of kindness, how it can even help us. Well, the same kind of thing works with empathy. If we practice self-empathy by treating ourselves with kindness, because most of us, if you look at most of us, we talked about this whole negative socialization thing that we have in the United States, and that's gone on for decades. But we have been conditioned to be highly critical of ourselves. And so when you look at the people in charge, they look at our president. I won't mention his name. I'm not being critical of him, but I understand where he's coming from, because his dad was probably just like him and probably treated him just like he treats his kids. So that's the only way he knows how to behave. So there's a big thing. All he knows, he has no emotional self-awareness. So if we're leaders, it's important, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be an effective leader, you have to have emotional self-awareness. And it helps us enhance our understanding on how we treat ourselves, and that's going to help us understand how to better treat others. So it's just a statement. We're almost done here, but I'm going to do some things. I want you to think about it. I'm going to read a couple statements. And I want you to ask yourself, or make this statement for yourself. And I want you to think whether these statements are true or not for you, or how they might apply to you. So the first one is, when I make a mistake, I tend to be very critical of myself. When I make a mistake, I tend to be very critical of myself. Number one. When I look back, number two. When I look back, I tend to remember the mistakes I have made rather than the successes that I have had. Number two. Number three. I can really be heartless toward myself when I feel down or when I'm struggling. Now, I gotta pause for a second. Just because I like talk about this leadership stuff, and I kind of fashion myself as a leadership expert or a coach or whatever, it doesn't mean that I got all of this stuff down. Because I'll tell you, there was a period of time not too long ago. I see old Keith Scott out there, the man with two first names. He's watching. Keith will testify to this. A little time ago, I was kind of really down. I had some problems with school, and some other things weren't going the way that I wanted them to go. And so I was in a really a funky mood. I was really kind of down on myself. I was like, man, Doug, you stink. You're horrible. You're just no good to anybody. I mean, so it's just a human nature. It happens to each and every one of us. And so if you are in one of those funks and you got a boss or a leader who's in a funk, that's not going to be a productive relationship. So anyway, that was third. Third one was, I can be really heartless for myself when I feel down or I'm struggling. Number four, when it comes to achieving my goals, I can really be tough on myself. And the fifth one is, I am driven to achieve my goals and set very high standards for myself and those around me. So when you think about those things, those are pretty harsh things. When you think about our self-talk, what we do to ourselves, if we said those things to others, we'd probably be like sued or something, for some kind of whatever kind of law. But if you agree with those statements, you find significant people in your life, if they agree with those statements, then many of us were raised to believe that being brutally self-critical was necessary in order to achieve your highest standards, and many people still believe that. So if you think if you're not hard on yourself, you're going to become lazy, aimless, or complacent. And that's kind of like how our president is. That's how, I've worked for people who was like our president. They were the same way. They thought that if they weren't really, really tough and unreasonably, horrifically just hard to deal with, that people would be bad performers. So one of the things that you have to do, you have to first of all, we have to understand how to forgive ourselves. So I think like in the case of our leader-in-chief bully, if he were nicer to himself and thought better of himself, he'd be nicer and think better of himself to other people. And the same thing goes on with you or me and all of our lives. You're going to be a good leader. You have to have self-empathy. And if you have self-empathy, it allows you to be empathetic toward others. If you're empathetic toward others, then you don't have people thinking about what you're going to do, because they'll have confidence that the decisions you make are going to be in their best interest. So the reasons, going back to how I started, the reasons that Russians are testing bombs, they don't trust us. They think that we're going to go over and wipe them off the face of the earth, and they're close to no longer being relevant at all anyway. So they are very defensive because they're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? What's the United States going to do? You know, the same thing with Korea. That guy smiles at Donald Trump and shakes his hand, but he's building a submarine that can carry, Tomahawk missiles that can shoot Japan or whomever, Australia, whatever. I mean, the Iranians, they're over there doing all kinds of stuff. We don't know what they're doing. And it's the same thing, people at your workplace. If you are a leader, you don't show compassion, you don't show empathy, the people around you are not going to be engaged. They're not going to try to do the best they can. And so, absent information, absent facts, people will make things up. And that's why the world is in such chaos right now, because no one knows what anyone else is going to do. No one trusts anyone else. There's just a total lack of leadership. And, I'm going to start an article here in the Observer. It's going to be called The Coach's Corner, the Observer newspaper. So just look for that, because I'm going to continue this conversation in that. That's what my first article is about. It comes out next Wednesday. So look in the Observer and check that out. But what the world needs, we all need to step back for a minute. We got an election coming up. 95 million people are running for whatever they're running for. More than anything else, you may not understand their political parties, their political positions, or whatever they're standing for, but look at them and see if you get a good feeling about whether they're a good person or not. If you get a good feeling about how they're going to treat others. You can't take babies that have critical illnesses that can't be fixed anywhere in the United States and deport them. You can't do that. You just can't. You can't have people whose homes are being ravaged by hurricanes and tornadoes and make fun of them. You can't call people out in cities because they're predominantly minority and say that they're whatever, they're not fit to live in. You can't do that. You can't continually do that, because what it does, it creates an air of distrust, of compassionless, leaderless, thoughtless people that are going to do compassionless, leaderless, thoughtless actions. That's why empathy is so important in leadership. So when you look in your voting, whatever, if you're going to go and apply for a job, the person that's looking at you, that's asking you questions, look and see if see if you get a good feeling about that person, because you're going to have to be working with them for a long time. Same thing like these next people that we put in office. I'll tell you what, if there was some kind of way I could wave a magic wand, I'd get rid of all of them and start over, because none of them have done their job for these last 4 years. But anyway, that's my opinion. It's not the opinion of KRVFM. That's just the opinion of Dr. Doug. But anyway, it's important to inspire others. What you have to do, if you want people if you want to have a successful team, you want to be a successful leader, you have to have a vision. You have to inspire people to move toward that vision. Same thing with this country. So if we need a leader that's going to be transformative, because what's going to happen right now when this thing changes in 2020, we can't have somebody that just sits there with the status quo and say, wow, things were so bad before me, I can't change anything, so I'm just going to wait out my time. They got to be transformative. They got to go in from day one. They got to think, hey, boom, we're going to make changes. We're going to bring people back together. We're going to get people trusting each other once again. We're going to regain our prominence and reputation around the world. We're going to fix the environment. We're going to make sure people have jobs and education and all those things that they need. That's what we need. We need a transformative leader that shows empathy. And when that happens, you'll see everything else start to fall in place. People start being happier. We'll start being more prosperous. And the world will be a much better place. And there'll be a world for our kids to live in 50 and 100 years from now. So keep that in mind. Dr. Doug here with the KRVF in the heart and soul of San Antonio. This is what I Lunch and Learn, talking about empathy and leadership. I'll be back. Thanks for listening.